Takuan uses his knowledge of the art of war to devise a plan, and he makes a promise to the warriors/government that he would capture Musashi and bring him back for punishment. But he absolutely uses his brain/mind to capture him. You'll see. I'm gonna read through here just some excerpts in what I believe is the power of nature. Everything ties back into Mother Nature, Earth, land, the landscape, trees, things of that sort. It all ties back to the landscape. It all ties back to nature. It all ties back. Anyway, Otsu is in the book. She is a factor. Takuan is Musashi, and you'll see his name transition happens later. So they made their promise to the warriors, and now they're off to find Musashi. Let's put this down for a minute. After they'd lowered the bundle to the ground, Takuan started towards a nearby cliff. Where are you going? To relieve myself. 100 feet below him, the waters that joined from the Adia River were crashing thunderously from boulder to boulder. The sound roared up to him, filling his ears and penetrating his whole being. As he urinated, he gazed at the sky as if counting the stars. Oh, this feels good, he exulted. Am I one with the universe? Or is the universe one with me? Takuan, called Otsu. Aren't you finished yet? You certainly take your time. Finally, he reappeared and explained himself. While I was about it, I consulted the Book of Change, and now I know exactly what course of action we have to take. It's all clear to me now. The Book of Change? You aren't carrying a book. Not the written one, silly. The one inside me. My very own original Book of Change. It's in my heart, or belly, or somewhere. While I was standing there, I was considering the lay of the land, the look of the water, and the condition of the sky. When I shut my eyes, and when I opened them, something said, "Go to that mountain over there." He pointed to a nearby peak. So they get to this mountain, this little clearing, this peak. They start a fire. And of course, Takuan, starts a fire, and he's like, oh yeah, fires, they make a person feel good, cheers you up. And this is part of his strategy, right? He's trying to capture Musashi, and he knows that part of a strategy is comfort, right? Human beings, fire's warm. He's out there on his own. He's cold. He hasn't eaten. He's hungry. So a fire, that's the first thing he kind of lights up, and it's one of the little tricks of nature he's got. So anyway, here we go. She grew pensive. Takuan, why do people in the village hate him so much? The authorities make them hate him. Otsu, these people are simple. They're afraid of the government. So afraid that if it so decrees, they'll drive away their fellow villagers, even their own kin. You mean they only worry about protecting their own skins? Well, it's not really their fault. They're completely powerless. You have to forgive them for putting their own interests first, since it's a case of self-defense. What they really want is just to be left alone. But what about the samurai? Why are they making such a fuss about an insignificant person like Takuan? Because he is a symbol of chaos, an outlaw. They have to preserve the peace. After the Shekigara, Takuan was obsessed with the idea that the enemy was chasing him. He made his first mistake by breaking through the barrier at the border. He should have used his wits somehow, snuck through at night or gone through in disguise, anything, but not Takuan. He had to go and kill a guard, then kill other people later on. After that, it just snowballed. He thinks he has to keep on killing to protect his own life, but he's the one who started it. The whole unfortunate situation was brought about by one thing: Takuan's complete lack of common sense. Alright, moving along. So they are on the third night of trying to capture Musashi, and Otsu reminds Takuan, hey, this is our last night. You got to come through with the promise. Otherwise, if he doesn't capture Musashi, he himself will be punished. So, moving along here. What are you muttering about, Takuan? It just occurred to me that Takuzo has to show up pretty soon. Yes, but maybe he doesn't realize you two have an appointment. Looking at the monk's unsmiling face, she softened. Do you really think he will? Of course I do. But why would he just walk right into a trap? It's not exactly that. It has to do with human nature. That's all. People aren't strong at heart. They're weak. And solitude is not their natural state, particularly when it involves being surrounded by enemies and chased with swords. You might think it's natural, but I'd be very much surprised if Takuzo manages to resist the temptation to pay us a call and warm himself by the fire. Isn't that just wishful thinking? He may be nowhere near here. Takuan shook his head and said, No, it's not just wishful thinking. It isn't even my own theory. It's that of the master of strategy. He spoke so confidently that Otsu found herself relieved that his disagreement was so definite. So, Otsu has a flute, and she plays it not very often. Takuan more or less kind of snoops around in her bag and finds it, along with some letters, mainly a letter from Marahachi telling her that he's with another woman. But here we go. Mused Takuan. While he felt pity for the obstinate tenacity so characteristic of orphans, he was aware of a void deep within her stubborn hearts. They seemed to him doomed to yearn desperately for that which they could not have, for the parental love with which they were never blessed. Otsu was constantly calling out to her parents she'd never known, and they to her, but she had no first-hand knowledge of parental love. The flute was the only thing parents had left her, the only image of them she had ever had. When barely old enough to see the light of day, she'd been left like an abandoned kitten on the porch of the Shopijo. The flute had been tucked in her obi. It was the one and only link that might in the future enable her to seek out people of her own blood. Not only was it the image, it was the voice of the mother and father she'd never seen. So she cries when she plays it, thought Takuan. No wonder she's so reluctant to let anyone handle it or even to play it herself. He felt sorry for her. So skipping along here, Otsu, her white face turned slightly to one side, put the cherished heirloom to her lips. As she wetted the mouthpiece and prepared herself inward to play, she seemed a different Otsu altogether. An Otsu embodied the strength and the dignity of art. Turning to Takuan, she once again, in proper fashion, disavowed any claim to skill. She nodded perfunctorily. The liquid sound of the flute began. As the girl's thin fingers moved over the 7 holes of the instrument, her knuckles looked like tiny gnomes absorbed in the slow dance. It was a low sound, like the gurgling of a brook. Takuan felt that he himself had turned into flowing water, splashing through a ravine, playing in the shallows. When the high notes sounded, he felt his spirit waft into the sky to gomble with the clouds. The sound of earth and the reverberations of heaven mingled and were transformed into a wistful sighs of the breeze blowing through the pines, lamenting the impermanence of this world. Moving ahead here. Even the devil, thought Takuan, is moved by music. How much more deeply must a human being, subject to the 5 passions, be affected by the sound of the flute in the hands of this beautiful girl? He wanted to weep, but shed no tears. His face sank deeper between his knees, which he unconsciously hugged more tightly. As the light from the fire gradually faded, Otsu's cheeks turned a deeper red. She was so absorbed in her music that it was difficult to distinguish her from the instrument she was playing. Was she calling to her mother and father? Were these sounds ascending into the sky, really asking, "Where are you?" And was there not mingling with this plea the bitter resentment of a maiden who'd been deserted and betrayed by a faithless man. She seemed intoxicated by the music, overwhelmed by her own emotions. Her breathing began to show signs of fatigue. Tiny beads of sweat appeared around the edges of her hair. Tears flowed down her face. Though the melody was broken by stifled sobs, it seemed to go on and on forever, 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 forever. So again, this is how everything is turned back to nature. In Takuan, the priest here kind of ties everything together. And you'll see he does have a rough side where he says he doesn't like Musashi, but straightens him out. And we'll see this later in other chapters. Oh, at this point here, Musashi actually shows up, right? Otsu has some warm soup. There's a fire, there's music, and of course, Otsu's there. Everything that is irresistible to a lonely warrior, especially Musashi. He's 18? I think at this point, 17, 18, really young. Obviously not the smartest. He does show up. He sits down, has some food, kind of talks, and then Takuan eventually talks him into kind of, giving up. He kind of tells him, I hate your brute strength. You need to learn common sense and, here we go. Back this up here. At that, suddenly clenched his fist and let go with a solid punch to Takuzo's jaw. Fool, the monk's voice thundered. Taken by surprise, Takuzo reeled from the blow, and before he could recover, took another punch on the other side. You irresponsible oaf. You stupid ingrate. Since your father and mother and ancestors are not here to punish you, I'll do it for them. Take that. The monk struck him again, this time knocking him all the way to the ground. Does it hurt yet? He asked beleagueredly. Yes, it hurts. The fugitive whined. Good. If it hurts, you may still have a little human blood coursing through your veins. Otsu, hand me the rope, please. Well, what are you waiting for? Bring me the rope. Takuzo already knows I'm going to tie him up. He's prepared for it. It's not the rope of authority, it's the rope of compassion. There's no reason for you to either fear or pity him. Quick, girl, the rope. Takuzo lay still on his stomach, making no effort to move. Takuan easily straddled his back. If Takuzo wanted to resist, he could have kicked Takuan in the air like a little ball of paper. They both knew that. Yet he lay passively, arms and legs outstretched, as though he'd finally surrendered to some invisible law of nature.